for Islamically how we view things is for the people, the Sahabas whom wrote the Quran, yeah, who wrote the Quran through oral tradition and all that. It wasn't just any companions. It was like the most knowledgeable, the most trusted companions.
No, it
Companions
wasn't.
that we
It wasn't the most trustworthy companions. As a matter of fact, dude, one of the most trusted companions of Muhammad was Ibn Masud. Ibn
yeah.
Masud was one of the people Muhammad said you need to learn the Quran from him. He named 4. Ibn Masud was the first one he named. Ibn Masud had nothing to do with the writing of the Quran, the rewriting of it. When Uthman rewrote the Quran and then burned the other copies, Ibn Masud had nothing to do with that.
The manuscripts started coming out during the time of Abu Bakr, when Zayd ended up,
collecting, yeah, right?
Yeah.
But then, so with Zayd collecting the Quran during the time of Abu Bakr, if that was all good, then why in the world would there have been an issue in the time of Uthman if they had one Quran that everybody was good with? Why would they have a problem?
Okay, so you see, the Quran was still obviously during Abu Bakr's time, a lot of the companions who had the Haffaz, the ones who had it memorized, died. Yeah,
during Abu Bakr's time, right?
Yeah, during Abu Bakr's time, during the
Battle of Yamama.
Yeah, a lot of the Haffaz died, so that's when he got Zayd to compile it. Then during the time of Uthman, which I'll get to right now, during the time of Uthman, Islam started spreading throughout, like a lot, like they started spreading a lot, correct?
Sure.
And when it starts spreading to the different areas in that spoke Arabic but different dialects of Arabic, and it would be spread a lot of the times through oral tradition still, because the oral tradition was the main way.
These were not dialectical issues. These were things that were written down in people's Qurans that Uthman had them turn in their copies of the Quran to burn them, so that he can meet and rewrote the other Quran.
How did people write the Quran? First, they would listen to it orally, and then they would end up writing it down, for the most part, at least.
So then my question is, by the time Uthman comes here, why is there a issue with the textual Quran? Since Abu Bakr had it collected by the most trusted companions of Muhammad, the ones who are most knowledgeable, why by the time we get to Uthman, there is a problem with the Quran to where one of the brothers say, "O chief of the believers," to Uthman, "save this people from differing about the book before they differ like the Jews and the Christians did before." So it's that bad to where it could split the religion. That's how worried they were.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. It got bad because over time, over the spread of Islam, a lot more people are accepting Islam. It's more prone to being skewed, more prone to being like similarly to what happened to...
Not if there is a standardized text, right?
But the standardized text didn't come until the time of Uthman.
No, dude. There was a standardized text in Abu Bakr's time. That's when it first came.
The one that Zayd compiled.
Yes. Correct? So before Uthman, there was a standardized text. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So since there's already a standardized text, why then, by the most knowledgeable and trusted companions, by the time Uthman comes, there's a problem with the text?
There was a standardized text, but it wasn't fully compiled into one book.
It was compiled into one book. That's what they did.
It wasn't fully compiled there wasn't major copies of it. It wasn't spreading through that. It was still spreading through oral tradition.
Yes, they were writing it down. They copied and wrote it down.
But what Uthman was doing, because it was spreading mainly through oral tradition up until the time of Uthman. When Uthman saw that the Quran, through oral tradition, when it started spreading to other areas in the world,
Nazar, it was being... You're missing a huge point. One of the points in the hadith, it says, when Uthman had them turn in their Qurans, they was turning it in. So they had copies of the Quran.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, how do you think they got those copies of the Quran?
They wrote them. They copied.
They wrote them?
Yes.
Correct. They wrote them. And how do you think they got companions, not companions, the new Muslims and new areas.
They're not in
How do
new
you
areas. They're not in new areas. They're in the same
Like the
area as
Mus-
Uthman and them.
no, but no.
They're all in Arabia.
They're all in Arabia. No, somewhere in Iraq. The main Quran that started the Quran where it started being different was in Iraq mainly.
This is where the issue is, bro.
In
The
Kufa.
the issue is that you have a problem with the Quran early on, where if it's supposed to be all good and dandy by the most trusted companions, there shouldn't be a problem to where you now have to burn the rest of the Qurans and rewrite it.
Okay, can I finish my point? Or
I want you to respond to that, because that's where we that's the crux of this.
I was on the verge of answering this.
Okay, all right, please answer directly then.
So they handed in literal books of the Quran they wrote, correct?
Yep.
And how do you think they wrote that Quran? How do you think that the verses came to them? Like, let's say the companions in Kufa.
Who knows?
Through oral tradition.
Okay.
And then when companions listen to the Quran themselves,
how do you know that how do you know that it's coming through oral tradition?
That was the main way that the Quran was spread.
Not necessarily.
Before the time of Uthman, it was mainly spread through oral tradition.
So people had copies of the Quran through oral tradition.
Like, there were the copies of the Quran, the literal text of the Quran wasn't.
What was the oral tradition based on? That's what I'm asking. What was it based on?
What do you mean based?
What was the source of the oral tradition?
The source of the oral tradition, it comes through the companions, and they spread the Quran. They memorize it orally.
What was their standard?
Standard of, like, in order?
Like, how would somebody know if one of the companions got a verse wrong? How would another companion be able to objectively say, "Hey, man, you actually got this verse wrong"? How would he be able to show him that?
Let's say a companion is reading it to a group of companions.
Reading what?
Not reading it. I'm reciting it to a group of companions. Sorry.
So what would be the objective standard to say, "Hey, man, you actually got this wrong here"?
The Arabs at that time, their memorizations it was like the best of all people.
Who?
The Arabs at that time.
That doesn't answer the question, bro. What was the objective standard? Wouldn't it be the Quran that they standardized? Wouldn't it be the Quran that they standardized, that they collected and compiled? That would be the standard by which the Quran is now being orally transmitted, and there should be no issues, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yet issues come.
Issues could come, but
no, they did come. They did come.
They did come. When the Quran was spread to other areas which spoke different dialects,
it wasn't a dialectical issue, because you even had people of the same dialect, of the same tribe, that had issues with each other, like Hisham and Umar. So it wasn't dialectical.
Okay.
It wasn't a dialect problem. It was a wording problem and a meaning problem.
You're wrong. It wasn't only a dialectical problem, but a dialect problem was part of it.
No, I disagree. The dialect problem had nothing to do with it.
A dialect, when it spread to other areas, it did have something to do with it.
Okay, no worries. So we see here that there's differences. The problem is differences in the Quran and its wording and its meaning that's causing fitna amongst the people.
Yeah.
So when you get there, when you get to this point, you now have Uthman who says, "Bring me all of your Qurans. We're gonna rewrite one. I'm gonna burn all the rest."
Yes.
Because of the issues.
Do you know which Quran Uthman used to standardize it?
Hafsas.
Yeah, the one that was given to, what's his name? Umar ibn Khattab's daughter.
Which you don't have.
Which is the one that Uthman used.
But we don't have that to know that he used that, do we?
We have it through oral tradition.
But you don't know that. You don't know if it traces back to that one. You don't know that. There's a lot of different oral traditions that everybody would say traces to that.
Sorry, our oral tradition traces back to the time of Muhammad, peace be upon him.
No, it doesn't.
there's the chain of narrations that date back to Muhammad. Like a teacher, like from Muhammad's time, Muhammad teaches someone, someone teaches someone, and then it goes back to people now till now.
Yeah, I got you. I just think that it would if we had this type of history in Christianity, if Paul, for example, were to use Luke and Titus to collect all the manuscripts of the gospel and writings of the gospel and the Old Testament and rewrote it, standardized his own, and sent that one out while burning the rest of the gospel manuscripts and the Old Testament manuscripts, the Torah manuscripts, you guys would have a
better.
You would have a field day with that. Be honest. You would have a field day with that. You'll be like, see, corruption, easy.
No, the major companions all agreed to that one standardized.
No, they did not. I disagree. Ibn Masud disagreed with what Uthman was doing.
Having one person or a couple people disagree out of thousands of people is very minor.
One, it's not thousands of them. It's not thousands of main companions of Muhammad. It's quite a few, and there's a few special. There's 4 special ones. 4 special ones when it comes to the knowledge of the Quran. Ibn Masud is one of them. Ubay ibn Ka'b is another. There's 2 others that I'm forgetting. But none of the 4 were part of the council when it came to the standardization of the Quran by Uthman.
All the major companions at the time of Uthman. The majority of them, would you disagree with
Ibn Masud, Ubay ibn Ka'b, and the 2 others were alive at the time. What are you talking about?
I know. I'm not saying they were alive, but there's other major companions other than Ibn Mas'ud.
These ones, they're not the major ones. The ones who know the Quran, the only ones that matter are the ones who know the Quran the best. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not necessarily. Every single major companion, knows the Quran.
It is what it is, dog. It is what it is. If you don't see it's all good. If you don't see a problem with this, that's fine. That's on you. You can have every excuse in the book you want for it. It's a clear problem to me. And when you do not have the ones who Muhammad say learn the Quran from as part of the decision making of the standardization of the Quran, the correctness of it, you have none of them part of it, and you actually have some of them objecting to it. I think that there's a huge problem there. If you don't see a problem, hey, come on. There was
only one important person that objected to what Uthman is. There are a couple minor people that objected to it, but for the vast majority of all the Sahaba, they all agreed to what Uthman was doing.
No, they didn't.
Correct?
No, that's incorrect.
The vast majority.
Nope, that's incorrect.
Sorry. Can you show me how that's incorrect?
Well, I'll show you on another stream. I'll bring my friend Jai, and he'll show you that this is he'll show you the whole Islamic narrative on this and how it has.
Okay, wait.